Hello and welcome to episode 241 of Sutton and Back Family Style. I'm Jason.
241 or 341?
Oh, 341. Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I'm way
I don't
off.
want to cheat us out of our Guinness book.
No, that's not even close. Wow. Yeah, 341.
So let's start with Ohio State, Penn State.
Yeah.
And here's my take on it. James Franklin still coaches like he's at Vanderbilt. I'm just not impressed at all. I mean, they don't, in a big game with a good opponent, they just do not show up.
No. They did. Well, at least this week they certainly did.
No, they just don't. I mean, I just don't think they're all that. And then, I realize the quarterback probably had the worst day of his entire life. So I'm willing to, I haven't seen much of him, so I'm willing to give him a pass. But Franklin hasn't beat anybody good. He's like, you can't play at that level, or you can't want to aspire to be in the college football playoff and not be able to beat anybody that's your equal.
No.
Or you're better. And so I was just like, really, I was excited about the game because I heard how, this was going to be and this was going to be. And it just, it was Penn State's defense played really well. And it was a good game given how much they were on the field. And then they just wore out. You can't be on the field that much.
No. But much like, the Penn State quarterback, a lot of college quarterbacks did not have great weeks this week.
No, I agree.
Caleb Williams didn't look great. Drake May had a bad game. Michael Penix, right?
Yep,
I was going to say Phoenix, but it's Penix, yeah. He didn't look great. And then the Texas quarterback got hurt. So.
No, and I've got a new Heisman Trophy candidate.
And who is that?
Ollie Gordon II.
Okay.
I mean, he put up 280 yards.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
And he looked unreal. I mean, he'd have the last two possessions were 1 and out. He took it to the house twice. But he's not getting any love. I mean, somebody got to watch it. I mean, we'll see what he does in a big game like against Oklahoma or somebody. But I mean, he's legit.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But you kind of feel like, with the Patriots won this week, we'll get to later. The Broncos won this week. It's almost like they watch college football and we're like, we don't need to tank.
There really was a lot of, if they weren't upsets, they were close games. Like, I was really hoping Duke was going to beat Florida State.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, they just didn't. And it gets, we talk about this a lot in that the elite teams can go 2 deep, if not 3 deep. And the aspiring teams can maybe go 2 deep at some positions.
Maybe, yeah.
But they just don't have enough. They just don't have enough.
No, and especially on the offensive line, the defensive line, you can do like Philadelphia in the pros, and you can shuffle in, 10, 4, 5-star recruit on defensive line and just put pressure on that quarterback on the opposing team all day long. And it's just...
Yeah. But I will give props to Duke's backup quarterback. I mean, he missed that pass in the last minute. That would have tied the game. And the guy was open, and he just threw it he led him a little bit too far. But it was a good effort. But once you knock out Riley, that was it.
Yeah, and then you talk about coaching and, the Penn State coach versus the Duke coach, right?
Yep.
The Duke guy had his guys ready to go against a big opponent. And on the cusp.
Yeah, it's just sad.
Yeah.
Utah doesn't get any love, but they could win the Pac-12 again.
Yes, they will. I think they will. I mean, I'll be honest.
They got to play Oregon and Washington yet. I mean, those are big games, but they show up. They show up every game, and they benched or they didn't bench. They announced their regular starting. The guy that was going to be the starter is not going to play this year. So the backup guy has been doing a really good job. I mean, that's what we talk about at a major school when you get that kind of depth.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Utah, what did you think about the trucks? Did you see a picture of the trucks that they got?
Yeah, I mean, it's football, right? That's how you're doing it now? I mean,
yeah,
good for them, I guess,
Yeah. Those are some serious trucks.
Those are great trucks. I mean, and it seems like a lot of the negativity toward it is people that are hating that nobody wanted to give the accounting class that they graduated from a truck. It just... And they're just
accountants don't get trucks.
accountants
Football players get trucks.
Yeah, and they're just leases, right? They get them for basically the time that they play there.
Yeah, they get them for the time they're there, and they get to pay taxes on them. But still,
yeah.
I mean, that wasn't like a base model truck.
No,
I mean that was a truck.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you're a Utah fan, you're a Utah alum, you want to go to that dealership and.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking that if I'm a high school senior, and I saw the picture of that truck, which was pretty good PR to get that out there on social media.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking, damn, I can go there and have a truck.
Well, especially if I'm like a 4-star recruit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I don't look, if I'm not an Olivia Dunn or, a Shredder Sanders who already has NIL deals lined up based on, outside factors, like, if I know at the very least I'm getting a sweet truck to drive and a college scholarship, that's pretty nice, right?
Absolutely.
Because, there's only so much NL money to go around, and if I'm a guard, a 4-star guard, I'm probably not going to get NIL deals, right? Or not.
No.
Maybe not as nice as the truck for 4 years.
Oh, switching back to the uniforms. Oregon had some serious uniforms this week.
I love Oregon's uniforms every year, all of them.
They had the Kelly green and gold.
Yeah.
Kelly green and yellow, I guess it really is. It's really not gold.
No, it's not.
But they had the Donald Duck sticker on the helmet when they were allowed to use the Donald Duck logo.
Yeah. That
was pretty sweet.
I know Oregon's obviously a really good program, but I always thought, with their Nike connections and their cool uniforms, and I would like to go to Oregon and live. I know it's not maybe for everybody, but it's also not like going to no offense to people on the pod, but it's not like going to Nebraska. I thought they would have been a bigger,
Yeah.
I know they competed for a while with Chip Kelly, but
state.
Yeah, I thought they would have, they just taken off.
So, how are we looking now for our college football playoff? We're looking probably Michigan out of the Big Ten, I would think.
Probably.
Probably Florida State out of the ACC. Oklahoma looked real vulnerable against UCF.
They did. But, UCF, my alum, it's a solid school.
Yep.
And like I said, Texas quarterback is down.
And they just barely beat Houston.
Yeah, and then you got Iowa State and your Oklahoma State Cowboys. So
I'm thinking they're going to get closed out again.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking we're looking at, I don't know, could be looking at Washington or Utah out of the Pac-12.
I think easily.
And then out of the SEC, we're looking at Georgia. Alabama can get back in the picture. We'll see.
Alabama's 5-0 for as doom and gloom as they've been all year, right?
Yeah.
And they're in first place in the West. So, and we know how it works.
They're going to win the West, and Georgia's going to win the East.
Yeah.
So it's going to come back. It's going to come down to that game.
And then they just have to not get embarrassed. Obviously win.
And as long as Texas still plays well, if there's such a thing as a quality loss, it's a quality loss.
It's true.
Except it was at home.
But if they battle Georgia, if they beat Georgia, obviously they're in. But if they battle Georgia, in a close 28-24, 35-32, one of those kind of games, I think, they're going to get the SEC bump. And they'll be in.
Yeah, college football, it's a fun time of year in college football.
What do you want to talk about, I guess, the not fun time of Jim Harbaugh, college football, while we're here?
Yeah, I tweeted out today, there's no way you can't give this guy a pass saying he doesn't know.
No.
Every coach I've ever been around knew everything. They knew things they didn't want to know, but they knew everything. And, it's like, when I worked for David Stern, his rule was no surprises. I can't think that a coach like Harbaugh or Ryan Day or Nick Saban, I can't believe there's anything that the staff would not that they wouldn't be surprised by. There's nothing. Otherwise, he'd fire him in a heartbeat if they screwed up and surprised him with something. So there's no way.
Yeah, and I'm sure he had some PR term that people told him. But, like I said, my stance has always been if stealing signs, granted they took it to that Belichickian over-the-top thing, but if you open the door by saying that, stealing signs in the middle of a game, organically, if you will, whatever the word would be for just stealing them with, pen and paper, if that's okay, then it's like you've opened the door for them to use technology.
Yes.
And it's the same with the Astros. It's like, obviously the body things and the trash cans were a step above, but they were still in the family of the same cheating you said is part of the game. They just
Agree.
they embraced the 2024, if you will, of cheating. And I don't like any of it, but it's like it's hard to say, like they said, it's easier to pull the leash back, let the leash out than pull the leash in. But it's like you opened the door and said it's part of the game to cheat, but you can't cheat the way you cheated. That's too much. And it's just
it's like it's a fine line between scouting
yeah,
and this form of cheating.
right. And then I listened to Pat McAfee, everybody's not favorite person of game day, obviously. What'd you think of that story while we're here?
Yeah.
Where he basically said he's not going to sign his contract, and he loves being there, but if people don't like him there, he's obviously not going to come back. There's been a lot
because I don't like him on game day.
It seems like nobody really does.
I think he's got a role, but it's not on game day. I think you can't. It's one of those things, Jay. I mean, you can't force that many people on the table.
No.
Networks you're taking away from somebody. I mean, Lee Corson needs to go as well. But I mean, I understand their loyalty to him and the way they treat him and everything. I respect that. But he's past his prime. And I mean, Herb Street, Desmond Howard, those guys, those are legit.
Yeah. It's weird.
I have to break in with a news flash.
What's that?
The Dame investment paid off because Giannis just signed the 3-year extension.
Oh. I mean, for whatever an extension is actually worth. But yeah, that's
$185 million.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yep.
I mean, it didn't feel like he ever wanted to leave, right?
No. I don't think he wanted to leave. I mean, he's that kind of person that, he wants to be synonymous with the Bucks and Milwaukee, and I respect that. In fact, I really, really like that.
Yeah. And, and we said, like, Dame is going to unlock things for Giannis on offense that have never been unlocked before, for whatever defense they lose on the perimeter. Because you can't leave, that pick and roll is going to be insane. It's going to be, a different kind of pick and roll than, Murray and Jokic, but just an incredibly effective one.
Yeah.
And when they're in their half court and you're putting up your Giannis wall, Dame will just shoot a 40-footer in your face. So.
And I mean, they got range now they've never had. I mean, you talk about spreading the floor and making somebody guard you for 50 feet. I mean, that's what you have right now.
Yeah.
Well, let's do some NFL because that is a really interesting NFL day.
It was. We got some clarity, I would say, on a few teams, right? I think the biggest surprise for me was Baltimore just destroying Detroit.
It was 28-0 after 4 possessions.
Yeah. And Detroit could do nothing.
What blew me away was, Detroit's got a good front line. They do. And they got penetration. They just couldn't catch him.
No.
He moved really well in and out of the pocket. And they showed one stat today where he had 9.1 seconds to throw. The one where he threw the touchdown to Aguilar.
Yeah.
9.1 seconds. You can't cover a guy for 5 seconds, let alone 9 seconds.
No. He looked like the MVP unanimous Lamar Jackson in that game.
Yeah. And as bad as he's looked the last couple weeks,
yeah,
he looked that good today or yesterday.
Yeah. And then Detroit, I know people don't feel like Jared Goff is ever the answer, but they've got, and I know David Montgomery was out, but you got Laporta, you got Jameson Williams, you got Amon St. Brown, you had Gibbs. I mean, you had a pretty nice team out there, and they could do nothing.
Nothing. So that was a big surprise. The Patriots knocking off the Bills was another surprise because the Patriots have looked really bad for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, Mac Jones looked like an MVP candidate. I mean, he was hitting everything he threw, he was completing. And I don't know if they just changed the game plan, made it more manageable for him, but he looked really, really good. And there's a lot of named people on the team.
No. And the surprise was not just that they were playing poorly and that Mac Jones didn't look good, but it seemed like there were a lot of, negative vibes. Like, is this Belichick's last year? is Mac Jones going to get benched at any point? Are the Patriots tanking for a good quarterback? I mean, all that stuff's been all year long.
Yeah,
and they've
absolutely.
had some defensive injuries, and then Belichick got his extension, his yearly 1-year extension, and Mac
And
Jones.
the talking heads spent a whole week burying Mac Jones.
Yeah,
and he got benched last week. So I mean, we have to remember that too. I mean, there's a guy that got benched the last week.
yeah. I mean, it's normally the Buffalo Bills that circle the wagons, old school, right? But it seemed like the Patriots circled their wagons. And, it's making my predictions look better. I thought the Bills would not be that great this year.
No, and they look like they've got problems. And remember, we talked about in the very, very beginning of the year when we were doing our preview, we were questioning the chemistry on that team.
And then losing Matt Milano, you can't underestimate that. Like, he is...
No, that's their leader on defense.
Yeah, and he's just phenomenal. He's one of those guys that makes plays constantly and in the big situations. And they lost him and their starting... Was it Gilmore? The starting corner?
Yeah.
I mean, you lose both those guys on defense. You get back Von Miller, but Von Miller is no longer Von Miller. I think the Bills could be in some trouble. At least as far as being a Super Bowl contender.
No, that was it. And then the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And the Eagles. With the Eagles lost to the Jets the week before, right?
They did.
Okay. So you lose to the Jets, who have trouble putting points on the board, and you beat down on the Dolphins.
I mean, Tyreek Hill still went off a little bit, but for the most part, And I was wondering, we've got the tush push, everybody's favorite play, right? Which is, Jalen Hurts is already a big, strong guy. He gets there and the back pushes him from behind. I'm wondering when you're doing the reverse tush push. You get your big defensive lineman, you get a giant linebacker to run behind him and have him shove the big defensive end into the other side.
There you go. There's a thought.
The anti-tush push.
I mean, there is no answer for it yet. So it needs to try something.
Yeah.
I mean, jumping over the top doesn't do anything because he's so low, you're going to land on his back.
Yeah.
You're not going to stop him from getting where he wants to go.
No, but that's when I thought, I don't know if it would work, but I was like, maybe like an anti-tush push. Where you're trying to guess, I think he's coming here. I'll push my guy we'll push him as hard as we can into their guy. And maybe we get some kind of traffic jam or something.
All right, how about the Broncos beating the Packers?
I think the Jordan Love train is gone. It's left the station.
Yeah, I think it's left the station.
He looks so good week 1 and 2.
The first game, he looked awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But you lost to the Broncos.
Not much sense.
Yeah. And again, the Broncos, much like the Patriots, seemed like a team that was actively maybe trying to trade away their players and lose. You had the Jerry Jeudy, Steve Smith controversy on the sideline yelling at each other. The vibes seemed bad. And they get the win. It's crazy.
Well, the Packers were my bottom feeder in my prediction, so I'm feeling good about my prediction. But probably the biggest surprise to me was the Bears.
Yeah.
With Padgett. And here's what I remember on draft day. They interviewed his father.
The arm wrestler, just so we can be like everybody else.
And said, who should be the number 1 quarterback off the board? And his father said...
His son.
His son. And so, this is a guy playing Division II at Shepherd in West Virginia.
Yeah.
And he comes, and I think his stats, Jason, were something like 22 of 26 or 21 of 25.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to say, wow.
Well, you look at his college stats, and he put up video game numbers.
Incredible numbers.
I mean, I know it's Division...
He put up gaming numbers.
Yeah. And I know it's Division II, but he still put up insane numbers. And then he's got a little bit of that Purdy to him, where he's just decisive. For whatever he's lacking as, a physical specimen or resume-wise, like, he makes decisions and throws the ball on time. And Justin Fields has been late quite often with his throws. So
it's going to be real interesting the rest of the year in Chicago.
Well, and they have the worst team in football. They own their pick. They own the Carolina Panthers. So it's hard to imagine if they ended up with, a chance to get Drake May or Caleb Williams or whoever they decide pops out of nowhere.
But remember what we said. Remember, this is one of the things you talk about all the time. If you have a quarterback on that kind of contract, you can really spend around him to really make your team better in a hurry.
And
so if this guy works out,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, you got the first pick and another pick in the top probably 6 for sure, right? Top 6.
Well, it does look like if you're picking who's going to be the best player in this draft, I still think it's Marvin Harrison Jr., right?
And if this guy works out, you can take Marvin Harrison Jr. and then take another player, another
Maybe
receiver or a lineman or
a
defensive player. I mean, wow.
Yeah, you're resetting. You're restarting your whole thing.
Yeah.
I guess.
So it's a story to watch.
Because it was one of the coolest plays, and we should probably talk about another AFC North team, and that's the Cleveland Browns, who snuck by the very feisty Colts with Gardner Minshew, right?
Right.
And we saw Myles Garrett make a Troy Polamalu play at 300 pounds, which is pretty incredible, as he just leapt over the line to block the field goal.
That was a 60-yard field goal attempt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be low. It was going to start off low to begin with.
But he just leapt over the line. He timed it so perfectly.
Yeah, he did.
But
I mean, he's a dominant player, but he's not that dominant when he plays the Steelers.
He's not. But I think the big story.
Neither is Lamar. I mean, it's interesting that these high-profile players in that game don't play well, or they're not noticed. Like yesterday, who was not noticed in the Steeler game? Who did not have a sack for the Rams?
Oh, Aaron Donald. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we've been bad-mouthing the Steeler. Everybody's been bad-mouthing the Steeler line.
And I was mad that, Dan Moore was back in, but Dan Moore played pretty well yesterday, so I guess I have to.
And Aaron Donald doesn't get a sack.
No. And the Steelers had their best offensive game every year.
Yeah.
Well, quarter, I should say quarter.
Let's do our Steeler moment.
Well, let's stay with the Browns for one more second, because we had the Deshaun Watson thing. They gave up a zillion draft picks for him. They gave up all the money in the world for him, and he's guaranteed all the money, right? $200-something million.
100%. 100% of the money.
And he has not played well in the time he's been out there. And it seemed like when he went down this week, and, he went into concussion protocol and he came out in about 5 seconds, so I don't think he had a concussion. But nobody seemed all that upset that he wasn't going back in the game. And I think, unfortunately, if you're a Browns fan, including Deshaun Watson. So I think that, I don't know how you get out of, you can't get out of that, right?
No, he's guaranteed. I mean, so if they cut him, they got to pay him.
Yeah. But he does not look like Deshaun Watson that we saw years ago.
He does not look like the Houston Texans version of himself, which is what everybody was paying him for.
And he doesn't look like he really wants to play football. And I know that's body language reading and stuff I'm not qualified for, but there was a vibe when he left that game that he was like happy to be gone out of the game, which I don't think you ever want. But yes, now let's talk about the horseshoe luckiest team on the planet. Our Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, they're 4-2.
Yeah.
They've looked really bad when they've lost. They've looked bad when they've won. Except for the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And, again, the defense played well enough to keep them in the game. TJ Watt made an unbelievable play.
Yeah. I mean, Heiberg had his first sack. Highsmith has been fantastic all year.
Yes, he has. He's been well worth the money.
Joey Porter Jr. looks legit. I still don't know why. Who's our big defensive tackle from? It's only getting like 25% of the snaps, but he's awesome when he's in there. Keontae Benton.
Yeah, he played. He looked good yesterday.
Martavis, then the Steelers got the help. The guy missed 2 field goals and an extra point, and then.
Yeah, I'm surprised if he's not on the waiver wire today.
Yeah, and then
if they're not doing kicking tryouts in LA.
At the very least, the light a fire under him. Yeah. But I've saw a few articles, like as soon as they missed that extra point, they would have made it 10-3 after a missed field goal. It was just like, okay, the Steelers are winning this game. I don't know why, but they are. And they had 104 yards of offense through 3 quarters. And
yes,
they went off in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Big plays of Deontay Johnson and big plays of George Pickens. Jalen Warren took a touchdown. Najee Harris scores a touchdown. Like, they were a little more aggressive,
Yeah. George Pickens, he can't be covered with one guy.
No.
His catch radius is incredible. He's got a 10-cent brain, though.
He's fiery.
That's his problem. His problem is he's dumb.
Yeah.
You can't act like that. And then Deontay Johnson, same thing. Those were two big penalties.
And especially for an offense that is, anemic and has so much trouble getting any yardage at all. That was a giant. Those are two giant plays the Steelers overcame. And then they got a little help at the end that, with the way the defense is playing, I don't know if the Rams would be able to get a touchdown regardless. But that was an atrocious.
If they needed a field goal, that would have been different. But they did get, we as Steeler fans, we will admit the Rams got screwed on the fourth down call.
Yeah, and this is
Pickett the first down.
And this will be my bi-weekly rant for just give us Sky Judge. It worked great in that other football league that nobody watched, but just do it. Like, that should have been overturned in about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And granted, you can say, well, Sean McVay used all of his timeouts, and it was 12 seconds before the 2-minute warning, which meant there was no automatic review. He couldn't challenge because he had no timeouts, and yeah.
It worked for us.
And on the other side, Tomlin made a dumbass challenge like he likes to do. On the poop into
Now, the other thing was, it was a home game.
Yeah.
Now, I was watching social media today, and the guy that writes one of the sport business columns in the Sport Business Journal, he said, okay, keep telling me the Steelers travel well, but he said, I'll bet you 80% of those people live within 2 hours of L.A. and just like the Steelers.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And I'm sure there's a percentage of that, but I'm sure also, I know enough about Steeler fans that if it's a nice destination, they're going to show up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty new stadium. Most people have probably never been to SoFi. It's in Los Angeles. It's in the fall. It's gorgeous weather. That's a perfect 4-day weekend, right?
Yeah. And your brother and my son Dan went to the game, and he said the facility was fantastic.
Yeah.
He said the video board was unbelievable.
Well, I guess we have to shout out the Chiefs, who were 6-1, right?
Yep, got to shout them out.
And they look like they're...
And Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Now, here's my question for, I guess, our audience, right? If the 6-1, two-time Super Bowl champions can get Taylor Swift, who equivalently could the Carolina Panthers at 0-6 get? Who would be their version of Taylor Swift? So if you have any thoughts, just, tweet at my dad, because I'm curious.
Yeah, Beyonce's married, so you can't take Beyonce out of the mix.
Well, I don't think they could get a Beyonce. Beyonce's still probably at least a Dallas Cowboy 4-2. I mean, you're talking 0-6. Yeah. I mean, maybe you could get knife-wielding Britney Spears. I don't know.
But you need the guy on TV doing all the commercials, too. They don't have that.
No, that's true. They don't.
So,
yeah,
maybe they can get Roseanne. Who knows? I mean, it's not going to be attractive, but one of the things, the Taylor Swift thing, it has a life unto itself.
And I have seen her act a number of times, and you can come at me, Swifty, I don't really care. She's terrible when she's trying to act on a television show or movie. But if she's legitimately enthusiastic about these games, fantastic. But if she's acting, she's doing a hell of a job. The cheering, the high-fiving, the secret handshakes with, Patrick Mahomes' wife, she's bringing out all the stops.
Well, the jacket she was wearing, the black and red Chiefs jacket?
Yes.
That's an Aaron Andrews design, and they sold out of it from the Swifties.
Of course they did.
So, I mean, I don't know what to say.
And, her movie, which beat the new Scorsese movie for the second, to stay number one for the second week in a row, in the midst of all these strikes in my current, and maybe former business, who knows, but she did it without the studios. And I've never understood why people need this. The studios seem like, Blockbuster. They've seemed like Blockbuster for 30 years to me. There's just no need for them,
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't need them. She doesn't need red carpet. She doesn't need any of it.
Yeah, and she didn't use any of it, and she's the number one movie, making $30-something, $40 million a week, and then, let alone whenever it's available digital to buy, every Swifty's going to buy it, right?
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing to me is I would like to see the stats for that movie in terms of unique viewers.
Yes.
That's what I would like to see. Because I know that the Scorsese movie, that's not something you're going to go see twice.
No.
So that would have more unique viewers than the Swifties. Because the Swifties, I've been reading about people going every night.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is, I mean, now that we are all out, supposedly all out together in public again, like, if you're going to an enthusiastic, everybody cheering and singing along, public sort of thing, like seeing a comedy in the theater, like, there's something to that. Like a cathartic.
Yes. It's the musical version of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right, exactly. And
because you're getting dressed, you're playing a role, you're singing in the theater.
Yeah. You're taking all your social media photos, like, it's a whole thing. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I still really want to see the Scorsese movie.
We're going tomorrow night, so
Okay.
I'll have a report on that for our show next week.
All right. That's exciting.
Hey, we're going to the theater with heated reclining seats.
Nice. And I guess the last thing I'll say, even though they lost again, Arizona's really trying.
They're winning today you mean the Arizona Cardinals?
The Arizona Cardinals. They're 1-6, but
Yep.
I've always liked Josh Dobbs, so I'm very happy to see him getting some love. And, they're not throwing in the
They're
towel.
playing hard every game.
They are. So just shout out to the Arizona Cardinals. And I guess now we
I
should...
got to shout out to the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are winning in the 7th inning 4-1 today to force a Game 7.
Yeah, which is pretty exciting.
These two series have been really, really good. I think these four teams have just really put on a show.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. It's been
And I
exciting.
realize they're not the four best teams by winning record, but they're very entertaining. They really have left it all on the field. They've really played hard. It's been fun to watch.
And I will say, I mean, I think I poo-pooed the idea initially, but I do think some of the changes baseball has made, for a dinosaur of a sport have been really effective.
I agree.
And, they deserve some credit for that. I said I probably wouldn't change my viewing hat, but I mean, it's made a difference. It's really great. So shout out to baseball just in general for that. And shout out to Bryce Harper, who's my favorite player in the playoffs.
Bryce Harper has really played well. He has really ascended that mantle of superstar.
Yeah.
Likeable superstar. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Likeable superstar.
And he's been fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, NBA season opens up this week.
For some people, not James Harden, but for everybody else.
Yeah, well, you and I have never liked James Harden. And he's mystified why they've made a trade for him. I just can't imagine anybody putting that cancer on their team.
No. And do you
And
think...
he's 30, 35, 36?
And an old 35, 36. Like, he doesn't,
Yeah.
he's not in the gym, staying in the off season. But it's also, I mean, I understand you're Los Angeles, you need stars, you're opening up a new arena next year, right? And right now you've got Kawhi Leonard, who is not the most charismatic person on the planet. Paul George, who has never really been a star, right? And Westbrook, who's on the end of his star
So you
run.
could have four guys in their mid to late 30s on your team. Why would you want to do that?
Like,
I don't even want to have three of them.
No, like, is that exciting? I mean, I don't. It's hard for me to imagine. Like, I'd want to go see the new Clippers building. If I'm one of those anti-kids in Los Angeles, then, like, here's a different team to get. I mean, I still don't know why they're called the Clippers, and they should need to change that name. It'd be cooler. But I don't think James Harden moves the needle that much.
No, I don't think he does either. Well, I'll tell you what my desired outcome is. Russ goes to the Sixers.
And they win a championship.
That's my desired outcome.
I don't think the Sixers want Russ.
I don't think they do either.
Well, you saw
But
the
my
offer.
desired outcome.
Yeah, the Clippers turned down one first-round pick swap, and Terrence Mann, and they said, nah, we're good. So that tells you where James Harden's value is right now.
Yeah.
For a team
It's nowhere near Dame's value.
No, for a team that always plans on being good, so who cares if we're giving you, you get our 20th pick, we get your 25th pick one year, and, you got our pick in the 20s, and you can have Terrence Mann, who, I just learned this the other day. Some players you think are younger than they are? How old do you think Terrence Mann is?
28.
Yeah, he's 28. I thought
Yeah, I only know that because I read that.
Okay. Because I thought he was like, 22, 23, like this ascending, but Terrence Mann, he's a very good player.
Absolutely.
but he is what he is. Like, he's never going to be an all-star or a superstar. You know, like, that's not happening for Terrence Mann. So the fact that that is a package that is too much for the Clippers to give up for James Harden is pretty indicting. But as they know, nobody else wants him, so it's like, why should I give you anything for James Harden? He said he's not going to play for you.
Wouldn't you just sit back and know that it's going to blow up? And they're going to have to do something, and you can just sit back and take a flyer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah. I get some entertainment.
Okay.
I just watched 4 episodes the last 2 days of Bosch Legacy.
Oh, yeah. I saw it was out.
And it was amazing. It was really good. And I watched it with... I didn't go to Freeview or whatever it is, so I had to watch it with commercials. But you know what? That was fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was okay with it. I watched that, and I really enjoyed it. And there's 10 episodes this season. And I'm excited about that. And then I rewatched with Mom the Mike Beck story, The Saint of Second Chances.
Yeah.
And it was every bit as good the second time as it was the first time.
Okay.
It's really well done. And it's a great story.
Nice. I watched an excellent horror movie that's new this year. My second one of the year. After Cobweb, I watched Talk to Me. It's A24. It's an Australian horror movie. It's really, really cool. I would say just watch the trailer and then that should be enough for you. But it's really, it understands that, it's not about cheap scares. It's like a long, slow build. But you still get some, you're still going to jump. And it's really, really well done.
Okay.
And then we've been watching, our horror movie a day sort of situation for the Halloween season.
Are you watching Five Nights at Freddy's?
When it comes out on the 27th on Peacock, yes, we will.
Okay.
And then we did watch...
Any other things you're recommending to people to watch coming out?
I think just based on the popularity of the Conjuring movies and Ed and Lorraine Warren, there's 2 documentaries. There's one out on Netflix right now called The Devil Made Me Do It, which is about it's eventually I think it's one of the last Conjuring movies where they went to court claiming that the person that murdered somebody had been taken by the devil. Okay. And then also, I think on the 27th on Apple TV Plus, I think it's The Conjuring 2, the one that takes place in London with the family that was haunted, and then the Warrens went to visit them. There's a documentary on that. I will say, the Conjuring movies make the Warrens look pretty incredible, but every documentary I've seen makes them look like clever charlatans at best.
Okay.
At best.
Did you watch that new Exorcist movie yet?
I have not. I don't think it's come to streaming as of yet.
Okay.
I think tonight we were going to watch Boogeyman, the Stephen King one that's on Hulu. I think it's based on a short story Stephen King wrote.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, what was the M. Night Shyamalan that was on streaming that wasn't in the theaters? The Cabin or something?
Yeah, it's worth it. If you enjoy his style of movie...
And I do.
Then you would enjoy it. It's a really good...
Okay.
You're going to sit there and you're going to wonder what, It doesn't have rewatchability because of you're hooked on, is this real, is this not real the entire time. So once you find out what's happening, then you're probably not going to want to rewatch it. But it's an enjoyable, 90 minutes, I would say.
Okay. Unlike The Sixth Sense, because you rewatched it because you wanted to see if you could figure it out.
Yeah, this isn't...
How you missed it.
No, this doesn't have that quality to it. This is
okay.
But like I said, it's enjoyable. And I know people that read the book were a little bit upset, but I didn't read the book, so I didn't have to be upset. So it was kind of nice. And then I wish
you got any food moments?
I almost had a lovely food moment from you, but UPS let us down.
UPS let us down. I said Jason some pizza from DeFera Pizzeria in Brooklyn, which I think is the best frozen pizza the best pre-cooked shipped to you pizza that you can get. And they told me it was coming on Friday. Jason thought it was coming on Monday, and it turned out it ended up in New Orleans on Friday, damaged, and delivered today, warm and decaying, right?
Yeah. And the box looked like it had seen some stuff,
Yeah, Yeah, but one thing I say about Gold Belly, within 30 seconds of me reaching out to them, they had already ordered a replacement to be delivered to you on Wednesday. So hopefully that'll be there.
Yeah. So that was going to be my food moment. So. And I guess
I tried tomato pie on Gold Bellies, a tomato pie which is just a sauce and cheese.
Yeah.
From Ionella's Bakery in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And what I did though, I grated up some provolone and made it like Betos, where I added the cold cheese or the not baked cheese on top of the Ionellas, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, I've never been opposed to putting sauce on top of the cheese. It keeps the sauce from soaking into the bread, and it works.
Yeah.
Grandma Sicilian, tomato pie, like lots of places.
Grandma Sicilian in Orlando is still my favorite. That's the best version of it I've had. That and one place in New York, Pizzeria Suprema. They both had genuinely good grandma's slices.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah. I think that's pretty much it for this week. It's been an exciting sports week.
Been a great sports week. One of the best sports weeks of the year, and one of the most surprising ones.
Oh, you know what? Real quick, I do have a pseudo food moment for you.
Okay.
Trader Joe's sells Halloween candy because Trader Joe's sells everything. And they essentially have a Milky Way, Three Musketeers, a Snickers, and we're not quite sure what the fourth one is. But we had some people over and we had like a little pumpkin carving, drinking sort of mini party.
Uh-huh.
And the room was pretty split. A lot of people thought the Trader Joe's versions of the Snickers, Milky Way, Three Musketeers were all superior to the actual ones. Some people did not, so just throwing that out there for you. And again, we don't know what the fourth one is. It's got caramel and nougat, and it had some Krispies and some chocolate, so it felt like it was, maybe just whatever was left in the factory. But
okay. Well, now I'm going to have to make a trip to see these things.
It's just the
you
mini
buy
bars.
A lot of them, or how they come?
It's $4.50 for a mini bag of probably, I want to say like 20 pieces.
Okay.
And like I said, some people, it was about the split room, because we had some people brought some regular Halloween cricket candy too. We had a whole thing. And the blind taste test, people seem to prefer Trader Joe's. So.
Wow.
Yeah. I was a little shocked. Some people adamantly felt that was not the case. So, but it might be a fun, trick or treat. And again, it's like less than $5 for their bag. And maybe you can figure out what that fourth one is. Because the other ones are clearly the candy bars that I mentioned.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, everyone, have a good week and keep enjoying this fantastic, fantastic sports week.